into the Phakisa 200 incorporating Goldwagen, Superhatch and the Speed and Sound 111 Sports and Saloons. It sees seasoned campaigners and some new youngsters coming to play, and looks like it's going to be an epic battle. But right from the word go, final preparations being done on some of the cars and some problems as well for Jean van der Walt.
Jean van der Walt, motorbike rider into cars. Just tell us a bit about your car. It looks like you have a few problems.
Yeah, it's a little Superhatch Fiesta. And we've had a couple of problems this year. It's our fifth motor. I think it's a bad mechanic, me. We found there's a little problem on the bearings. They've changed the design from Ford. And so we've been running motors. I've just sent someone to town to go and get us a new set. So we're rebuilding the motor and we are racing today, come hell or high water.
Certainly a very competitive car, and another one, of course, is Baby Blue.
It's a 1990 Cadet Cub, retrofitted with a Superboss motor and a special gearbox built by Rexdiff and Gearbox. We've had the car for 17 years, only one owner, we promised, and then making 77 kilowatt and 140 newtons on the wheels, which is spot on for class power. We run a power to weight ratio, so we had to detune it. It's running like clockwork.
It's a very competitive field here for the Phakisa 200, and of course Superhatch drivers and 111 Sports and Saloon drivers, some of them partnering up even in the categories, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end. Of course, last year's champion, George Poseidon, didn't make it out here, so we'll have to wait and see who's going to take the #1 spot here today. It's certainly going to prove for some of the best racing we've seen all day, and of course probably running into the night time as well, as the lights are about to go out for the Phakisa 200. Down towards turn 1, Dalton gets a good start. He gets the drop on everybody else, and in the background you can see the Superhatch competitors and 111 cars starting to make their way to the front of their particular battles. Around the outside, of course, is that VFS Porsche. It's not the Viper this time, no. This time the 200 is going to be partnered up by dad and son, and here we're on board with Nick Martin as he starts just behind Funfletter. One of our lady drivers there in the Bat Ladies Mobile, of course, and joining me in commentary booth is another lady driver that's actually out there and fighting for honours, as we see the Batman going in there, Mel Spur. You can see the Superhatch and 111 already in the thick of it, and the top competitors in Superhatch already starting to give 111 guys a run for their money.
They do, and it's such a nice mix. Also remember, this is a 200-kilometer race, which means your lead car does 48 laps, compulsory pit stop where the driver will wash their own windscreen, and no power tools, so good old-fashioned wheel spanners.
Now, I'm looking forward to those ones. I can tell you something, it's not going to be easy in the pit lanes, and when it gets as busy as it does, especially when we get to that pit lane and pit stop window, it's certainly going to prove to be something different when you get cars in and out all the time. Dalton doesn't look like he's holding anything back here. I can tell you something, he's getting away from Joel Silva, who's partnering up with Ricky Jonakara in the Speed and Sound BMW. Just behind them, looks like it's still the Porsche of father and son Charles and Harry Arangis, VFS, the sponsor on the side of that car. Adrian Dalton, wow, he's certainly got a very quick Golf. I'm not quite sure if anyone's going to have the match of Adrian Dalton here today. He runs on his own in that car, but there are a couple of drivers that have decided to partner up, as we've already mentioned, a few of them. Dalton on his own, and it looks like about 90% of the drivers and teams are going to be partnered by 2 drivers. So let's see what happens in that pit lane and pit stop window.
Here we've got the first of the Superhatch cars. That's Hilton in his 207, just ahead of Werner Pieterse. And there's one of the 111 cars, G&H car of Adam Starostecki, also doing the race on his own.
That's the official hairdresser's car, if I'm not mistaken. There's our fellow commentator doing a super job so far, also running pretty high up and fighting with a 924 Porsche in your little Opel. Not too shabby, Mal. That's a good way to start things out.
Here's a welcome return to George Eslin. He's had a bit of a long layoff. Actually, that's Greg driving his car at the moment, but George's car. And there's a newcomer to the series, Daryl Robinson from Speed and Sound, just on the back end of Chris Smith in the 924.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that there's a couple of new drivers and some youngsters involved in this. You mentioned Greg. Of course, Greg Gossman is the man we're talking about there. Andy Gossman is also involved. He's fighting in his Golf 2. And just ahead of the Mini of Tuka Mechanicos and Gianni Jonakara sharing that. Nick Martin leading out Class Bs in Superhatch right now. He'll be partnered up by Hollywood himself, Mr. Marius Roberts. Expect some big things from him as he gets in the car. But look at this, 2-litre 16-valve Superboss engine underneath the bonnet of this little Opel Cub is sticking right with that Mini Cooper. Great to see. Starostecki though in the mix, and closing in on Hilton, Chris Davison being partnered up.
He's with Jaco Creel. Nice little story here. Jaco's car wasn't working. Chris said to him, come race with me. His co-driver Stuart Mack stood down, and this is what the camaraderie and the fun of a 200k race is all about.
I love the fact both of them are super bosses as well, so they know the car, they know how it's going to work, how it's going to perform, and in fact probably a good effort there from Jaco's side of things. He's going to now see a little secret that Colonel Mustard's got.
Possibly. Here's Adrian having a fantastic trouble-free lead out front.
I don't think he's going to be troubled much. I can tell you that Golf has really got a turn of pace. Speaking of turn of pace, changes in the mid-pack. Looks like Greg Gosman trying to find a way through there on Phakisa. Phakisa goes defensive in the Golf one and keeps him out, but how much longer will that happen? Gosman probably on his inside now, has the door firmly shut, and Phakisa hangs on for a little bit longer.
See the light starting to get a little bit bad with the sun setting in everybody's eyes, but it's the same for everybody. There's Vaughan Obidol in his 944 Porsche coming up on the back end of Greg.
Still on the track as well, so good to see the on the track man. Oh, and in the background there, the green and white Honda. That's Jonathan Dutoy and Ishmael Boloy sharing that one. Just ahead of two of the very competitive Porsches there. Henny de Klerk, of course, a very competitive man when it comes to 924s. And in this particular category, and on this occasion, he has literally been at the front end when the time the checkered flag comes out on numerous occasions. So keep an eye out for that Porsche to get a little bit higher up.
Just had a shot there of Brett Langston's, Adrian Dalton's teammate in the Class E 111 Golf. And here we got Joel Silver, who's second on the road at the moment and actually flew in from the States the morning of the race.
Not a bad effort there from him at all. Harry is at the wheel and pushing hard, trying to maintain that third place gap. Obidol once again in the on the track racing Porsche. And right on his tail is Phakisa. Peterson is actually closing in on that Porsche. Behind them comes the Batman fighting with Gosman. Then it's Nick Martin. Good run so far from him and looking good for Class B honours in Superhatch.
Also notice Nick's actually ahead of the Custard Opal, which is the Class A Opal. So very good run here for Nick Martin today.
You can see they're running similar engines now. It gives them an opportunity to do that. But certainly a magnificent effort here from this little Opal. And we've seen how well it's gone all season long so far. And it looks like it's going to be more of the same here today. A little bit of pressure now on Starostecki. Looks like Hilton's decided to turn the work up a little bit and try and go around the outside. Not going to be easy to do that. But Hilton certainly is a seasoned campaigner and knows that Peugeot really, really well.
Also got to remember the guys are trying to keep a bit of consistency because they've got to make up time for the pit stops first of all, and also to ensure that the index stays right up there and keep their consistency levels up. And everybody wants the index prize if they can't finish in the top sort of 5 or 6 on the road.
Yeah, it's always nice to run an index competition as well in these kind of races, especially in endurance races. There's the second of the Peugeots, and Stewie behind the wheel of that one by the looks of things this weekend.
It is. Stewie and Jono actually shared the drive, but that was Stuart. There's Jeff Tugwell in his Golf, having the door firmly cut on him by Bruce, who's sharing the drive out of his BM for a change.
Yeah, it was a nice bit of driving there from yourself too, just cutting the nose off the front end of that Golf. But always what it's all about. Oh, speed and sound going down into the double right-hander and going off on the dirt. But I think we're coming very close to pit lane activity time. And as that speed and sound Golf makes its way back onto the circuit, it is in time to see the first of the pit stops. Inboard being shown there to T32. Gosman, time to come in. And as you can see, it's going to be frantic activity here as they get into the pit lane. Driver changes for the teams that are changing drivers, and as Mal mentioned earlier, no power tools, so it's wheel spanners at the ready. After going off, I'm sure that the 78 car is going to be looking for a little bit of a higher position. Bruce Turner and Darryl Robinson sharing that one out for speed and sound.
Looks like Bruce is battling to find the first gear in the Golf. He's used to a BM.
Try and find it somewhere. Well, speaking of Golfs, here's the leader in. Adrian Dalton dives into pit lane. He hasn't had a problem on the car at all. I don't see any problems for him as he comes into pit lane either. The team that works with his car is very good. But that hands the lead to Joel Silver. If you don't have a wheel spanner, well, I suppose your hands will do, hey?
With a pair of gloves, as you saw, those wheel nuts get exceptionally hot.
Hopper Gosman style here.
Our transition. It was very good, getting hot, busy in the beginning, and then came okay. We trying to stay ahead in our class, I think we were. I'm not sure about Greg Gosman, he's also in our class, doing well.
Possible top 10 finish there for the Gosmans if they stay where they are. Phakisa opens up the boot, tries to get a bit of coolant in there, and of course refuels.
There's some duct tape for aerodynamics, and after the driver change, we caught up with Louis Scholz.
I was after very tiring, but all good. It's slow. The next driver's going to make up for that. It's all good.
He's just handed over to Dirk Lawrence.
That car's definitely not on the track anymore, so Vaughan Obidol, that is not where you want to be parking the Porsche. Looks like that's the end of the race for him.
Here we got Adrian Dalton's now in second place, obviously because he pitted before the speed and sound BM of Joel, and he's trying to get through the field.
Found a way past some of the back markers and some of the slower cars out there as well. Halfway through, we're looking at some changes. Hilton van Nieuwenhuizen now probably sitting in second place as we speak, but Dalton will be closing in on him. And it looks like Greg Gossman is certainly flying in that polo. Leader comes in, so expect another lead change now as Joel Silver comes to make his compulsory pit stop. Is it going to be Dalton? It might be Van Nieuwenhuizen and Garland that are sharing that Peugeot that take the lead for a little while. Let's see how things go now for a quick speed and sound pit stop.
We're going to be handing over to the G&H side of the team, which is Ricky Giancarlo.
Final adjustments, first gear, and off she goes. In comes Nick Martin. He's going to be handing to Marius Roberts, his teammate. Also some frantic activity here. Remember, it's got to be climb out the car, clean the windscreen, get the wheels changed if you are, refuel, a little bit of extra oil. I think Opals use a bit more oil. Hey Mel, you'll know about that.
No, it's just preventative measure.
G'day. Out goes Mr. Hollywood himself.
Well, yeah, under the pressure and a few pit stops you need to do it, and it's pretty hard work at the end. Tension gets to you, you can't afford to make a mistake because the whole weekend's hard work just by one pit stop mistake. It's like, the race is awesome.
I'm sure Marius Roberts is itching to get onto the circuit now in the action, and of course Dave Peterson caught up with him just before the race started to find out what the plans were for today's 200.
A surprise entry in the 2-hour race, 200k race. Could take 2 hours in that car, Marius.
It won't. That car runs really well. I mean, Nick, my teammate, won the championship last year in Superhatch. Did very, very well here in the 200 kilometer as well. I've been out of racing for a while, and they've called me back in to pair up with him. So I'm hoping that my rough appearance is not going to happen on the racetrack as well. Hopefully I'll be smooth and slick today.
I don't think many people know this, but you got quite a famous cousin who races cars.
Yeah, we grew up chasing Mike Briggs around the track when we were tiny, from his motocross days through karting, obviously into production cars. So I kind of was late getting into racing, but I don't know. It looks like a bit of the genetic ability has been passed down the line. So the racing I love, and it's hard. I promise you, not being here for the year, having raced the whole of last year, you get the track, you're like a kid. I'm super excited and can't wait to get on the track. It's going to be good.
So as we get back out onto the circuit now, looks like Dalton has eventually got back to the front. He comes up onto the back end of Henry van Vletter in the Batmobile, and they'll probably make an easy job of that. Van Vletter will give him some room. He realizes that Class A 111 will probably be a little bit quicker than his Golf 2. Speed and sound now in the hands of Ricky Giancarlo, and that is now second place on the road. So it looks like no worries for 1 and 2. Hilton van Nieuwenhuizen now at the wheel, of course, is Brett Garland, and he'll be hanging on to that third spot and trying to maintain third on the road until the checkered flag comes out. Looks like some problems in the pit lane for Mrs. Batman. What happened there, Elke? Tell us what the issue is.
I've got an accelerator cable that's not releasing properly, so the accelerator pedal moves about that much, so I've got no power, so seeing if we can fix it.
Good. Not too tired and good.
Right, you're only allowed 4 plus the driver, right? Then you're only allowed to have one person changing the driver and the rest around the car. While the car is being refueled, no driver allowed in the car. As soon as the fuel is in, you can have the driver back in the car. As soon as you have the get-go, then you go. You make it go.
Sun is setting and light is going to be a major factor now, and of course the 3 ladies that are participating in this race have decided to do it on their own. Adrian Dalton is not one of those ladies. He's decided to do it on his own for a whole nother reason. It's because he's leading by a very good margin over that E36 BMW from Speed and Sound in the hands of Ricky Giancarlo right now. Time for lights on, as you can see, and things are certainly starting to get all sorted out here. Morné Himan is having a good run too.
He teamed up with his teammate Neil Buerter from the Action 4 team.
It's good to have those 2 drivers. They were very close in Superhatch at the last round, so definitely got what it takes to run similar lap times, and that's what you need to do if you want to win things out in your class and possibly in the overall index of performance as well.
There's the Class E Alpha of Paul Griffin and Warren Ewart, who are doing exceptionally well out on track, and they are good contenders for the index of performance, as your worst time has got to be as close to the fastest time as possible.
It's going to be interesting at the end of this one, that is for sure. But there is still a while to go, and with the lights on, it's certainly not going to be easy Here we come into some action. Hollywood Roberts is at it and flying, trying to get through here. And coming up on the back end of George Iceland, probably going to be a bit concerned about the pace coming from behind. 2-litre Super Boss engine in that Opel. We'll go on board here with Maurice Roberts as they head down to the fastest part of the circuit. They're coming into the right-hander at Geelkop, and this is where things can get real exciting. And you can see late braking. Oh, going up the inside here. Oh, little touch. Yes, indeed. Oh, this is going to end up in tears. Hollywood has put the Opel in the wall and onto its roof, and that's going to be game over. That is no longer baby blue. That is one broken baby. And Iceland's car also on the sideline there. Hollywood's out the car, fortunately, but the car is in a very dangerous and precarious position and could possibly bring out. Look at that from the outside. Wow. The cameraman only caught it right in the end stage, and that's over 1.5 rolls onto the sideline and game over. You can see George just taking the normal line there. Marius, I don't know, he could have maybe rolled out of that ever so slightly and given him some space, but he thought he had the line. He taps the wall, then gets put onto the side and goes for the little rollover. Fortunately, George Iceland also spinning out of the way of everybody else. Both cars not in the actual race line, but safety car is certainly going to be called for.
You've also got to remember the light here. The camera is actually making it a lot more light. As you can see, that's what the light really was like for the drivers to see. So safety car for sure.
What a big pity though, because those two were going at it, and unfortunately we have to finish under safety car conditions, which is not kind of the way you want to end the 200, but it's good for Adrian Dalton. It means he's going to take the victory in the extra shoes and clothing Volkswagen Golf. Second place to Joel Silver, and of course Ricky Giannacaro in the Speed and Sound G&H Transport, and Hilton van Nieuwenhuizen comes through for third place and first of the Superhatch category. Followed very closely by Chris Davison and Jaco Kriel and Stuart and Jono Koenig, who also win 1, 2 and 3 in the Index of Performance. A good effort from our fellow commentator to win out Class C in Superhatch and 11th overall. Well done, Mel.
Yes, it is extremely long and very challenging in the end in the dark. But it ran very well. I think it ran very smoothly. The car ran brilliantly. And yeah, well, it was a good race.